In the heart of the Middle East lies a nation that has endured over a decade of conflict, its cities scarred by war, its people scattered across the globe. Syria, a land of ancient history, now a battleground for modern geopolitics. But as of today, the war-torn country faces a new chapter, one fraught with uncertainty and potential opportunity. This is the story of Syria at the crossroads, following the collapse of its government and the international response led by President Joe Biden of the Assad government. Archival footage shows Syrian President Bashar al-Assad in a suit addressing his people, juxtaposed with images of protests, rebel fighters, and empty parliament halls. The regime of Bashar al-Assad, long a symbol of resilience against global pressure, finally crumbled under the weight of prolonged internal strife, economic despair, and relentless military confrontations. The final blow came from within, fractures in the political elite and mounting dissent among once loyal allies. Assad's fall marks a turning point, but it has left a vacuum. Regional powers scramble to fill the gap, with Iran, Russia, and Turkey each vying for influence, and the United States revisiting its own role in this geopolitical maze. With the collapse of the Syrian government, President Joe Biden addressed the international community. The U.S. had maintained a cautious stance on Syria, wary of deep entanglement after 2 decades of wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. But this moment demanded decisive action. The Syrian people have suffered long enough. The collapse of the government creates an opportunity for peace, but it also poses significant risks of further destabilization and exploitation by terror networks. Biden outlined a multifaceted approach, providing immediate humanitarian aid, mobilizing allies to stabilize the region, and spearheading diplomatic talks under the United Nations. Syria's collapse triggered a mass exodus of civilians. Neighboring countries like Turkey, Jordan, and Lebanon, already overwhelmed with millions of refugees, braced for another wave. The international community pledged billions in aid, but delivery remained a logistical nightmare. The scale of the crisis is unimaginable. We're talking about basic survival: water, food, and shelter for millions. Syrian refugee. We've lost everything. We just want a chance to live, to rebuild our lives somewhere safe. Geopolitical ramifications. Maps and graphics show the shifting alliances and power dynamics in the Middle East. With Assad gone, the delicate balance of power in the region teetered. Russia, which had invested heavily in supporting Assad's regime, faced the possibility of losing its foothold. Meanwhile, Iran saw an opportunity to strengthen its influence, particularly through Shia militias operating in Syria. Turkey, concerned about Kurdish autonomy in northern Syria, intensified its military operations, further complicating the fragile landscape. The Biden administration worked to unite NATO allies, urging restraint and coordinated efforts to prevent Syria from becoming a haven for extremist groups like ISIS. Amid the chaos, glimmers of hope emerged. For the first time in years, opposition leaders, international stakeholders, and representatives of the Syrian diaspora sat at the same table. The talks were fraught with tension but marked a critical step toward establishing a transitional government. This is not about assigning blame. It's about creating a path forward, a Syria that works for all its people. Syria's future hangs in the balance. The collapse of Assad's government is both a tragedy and an opportunity. As the world watches, the choices made today will shape the Middle East for decades to come. This is Syria's moment, a nation at a crossroads, with the global community standing at its side. The road ahead is steep, but with resilience and unity, a new chapter can be written.